Hello. I'm Mark, and I'm here with
Heidi.
Heidi. Okay, and we're from the Wisdom Factory. Perhaps you've seen some of our videos there, thewisdomfactory.de. And we're here today as preparing for our presentation at the Integral European Conference just next week now in outside Budapest on a beautiful lake, Lake Balaton in Hungary. And this is our preparation. We've been revising this. This is third time around. So if you're seeing it, don't go back to the early ones. Really, maybe to the next one, but not to the other.
Actually, maybe the early ones are more comprehensive because we try to close it down into a shorter version because, we don't have too much time and we want to interact with people. So our presentation must be relatively short, about 20 minutes, and we will try to do that now. But our first presentation we did here online, it was 50 minutes, and we also took, were aware that maybe you, the watcher, the live watcher or on video, don't know anything about spiral dynamics, integral theory, and so on. This time we won't do that because there in the conference people know what we are talking about. So if you go to the first version, you will find more explanations about what the concepts mean which we are using.
Yes. And you will get, of course, our complete professional presence, whichever version you watch.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, what we want to do with our presentation today is to, first of all, tell a little bit about each of us. We each have a story, We're not young, We have stories.
We should say that the title is Integral Aging because it's about getting older, and we certainly have to say something about that.
Yes, we do. All right.
Okay,
and then we're going to look briefly at the levels of development, how old age has been viewed, going back as far as we know in history. Maybe some of it's guesswork, maybe at the beginning, but likely understanding of old age in all the levels. And then we want to take a look at the Wilberian quadrants, the upper left, this side, upper left, inside, bottom left, the common shared interiors, and then on the other side, the exteriors, the individual exterior, and the social
collective
exterior. Okay. And then
we want to do that as a description what is happening there now.
Right.
And what we would like to change in these 4 dimensions.
We want to change things?
Yes.
Oh,
and
okay.
we would like to inspire people to collaborate, and that will be at the end. We ask you if you want to collaborate in creating a new story about old age, to join us on the Wisdom Factory and also on the Facebook group we have created, Integral Aging. Masterminding Integral Aging. And very soon there will come out our website, integralaging.com.
Yep. So we're moving in that direction. We're quite experienced, but this is a relatively new area for us to be investigating.
Okay, so now let's start. And let's try 20 minutes. If
fit from this point. Yeah, okay, we got an eye there. Yep. So I'm going back just briefly to refer to our outline.
You see, he always has to use his outlines. The memory in older age seems to be declining.
This is one of the things that those stereotypes we might talk about. Because I was really good at forgetting when I was 15, too. So there. All right. All right. But anyway, we'd like to start, by asking you, how do you think about older age? Many of you in the audience, I'm sure, are, in the second half of life.
And even if you're in the first half of life, what do you think about what older age would be?
That's right. Some of you will be projecting, some of you will be experiencing. however, and this is what's the difference here. This is some things we can talk about because we don't talk intergenerationally very well. Okay.
No, this is one thing. And the other thing, we want to discover our hidden beliefs about what it means to be aging.
Yeah.
You know, and normally we think it is a loss because we lose our beauty, we get wrinkles.
Some of us get better
hair.
looking.
Everything seems to be worse, but actually it's not.
Yeah.
And that's also one of the big reasons why we are doing this.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little, very shortly, about your experience?
My experience, exactly. Yes. At age 50, I was feeling the pangs of age when I lost a job through no fault of my own, just changing times and so forth. And finding another job was very, very difficult, you know?
A qualified job.
A qualified job.
Impossible.
And so I ended up taking really crappy jobs for the next 12 years, basically, until I was able to gratefully, happily retire, even at a reduced income, because it was an early retirement. But going into pension, ending up in Florida, near the beach, in a retirement village, which meant everybody was at least 55 years old. They wouldn't let you in if you were under 55, except for short visits. Okay. And so in a short time, I realized that I'd been very good at waiting to retire, but not very good at being retired. And I got bored. There was no intellectual stimulation there. I just got, fortunately, that forced me to reach out and find some resources that were really good for me. I don't know, met Eckhart Tolle, I met Andrew Cohen, in books, online, etc. The magazine, the wonderful magazine, what is Enlightenment? And then on to Don Beck and Cerebral Dynamics, and Ken Wilber with A Brief History of Everything. And my life began to change and grow. And I settled into a period of just reframing my past, looking at it in a completely different way with this new perspective. And that got me ready for a next phase, so that eventually, while hacking away on the keyboard with a Facebook friend who was talking about integral issues, there was a comment from this lady about the same issue, and we began talking with each other. And, well, long story short, in a very few months, I was winging my way to Italy, leaving retired life behind. And we've been together now, over 4 years. So.
Yeah, and I'm living in Italy, and I refuse to go into a retirement center where there are only old people to play golf. That was not my idea of life. And actually, Mark had some difficulty to really change gears with me, who I am much more active. But I also have some history about aging and ageism. We can introduce already the word here. When I went to Italy to learn classical singing better, because I was not as good as I wanted to be. And when I finally had discovered how really the voice works, and I was able to really express myself with a free and open voice, I was too old. I was almost 40, and with 40 as a classical singer, forget it. So I always found my way through by teaching and so on. So I didn't have this experience with being an employee. But I am very curious, and I want to get older in a good way. And I want to discover why it is so difficult. Why am I still sort of angry when I see my face getting more wrinkles and so on? And we discovered by our own speech and by what we hear in other people, what they say, we have very much conditioning about what old age is, as I said before, a loss of capacities. And we want to find out our possibilities, our potential. And actually, the older we get, the more experience we have and the more overview we have. And thanks to the integral theory, we have map to get oriented on our experience and insert it into knowledge, and then our desire is to bring it out into the world and help younger people and even older people to have a different view of getting older. Now we are going into the history of getting older. There is spiral dynamics.
The colors.
The different levels of development in personal development, but also in history when we talk about history.
Yeah, so we start, of course, at the beige level, which is the most primitive. Getting older wasn't much of a problem, and it didn't happen very often. Basically,
people died very
young. As soon as you were physically, left behind a little bit, you couldn't keep up, and you were gone. So, that lasted a long time. That beige period, hundreds of thousands of years, I think. But eventually, people moved on and developed a tribal way of looking at things, and in the purple stage, you actually had enough security, enough predictable food supply and support of a group that some people did reach older age, and they were very respected because they knew the story of the group, which was the entire world as far as the tribe was concerned. And they had the history. They knew where everything in the forest was that they needed to survive. They knew how to take care of all the medical needs of
and everything. They were just the transmission. What today we have in books or in videos, they were the oral transmission of the tribal background, of the tribal whatever it is.
And so they were respected and they were honored.
Okay, and then we come in the next level of development in human history.
That's red.
It's red. The ego is developing.
Somewhere along the line in that tribal life, somebody says, "I'm not going to listen to you old guys,"
It's about 6,000 years ago it appears in human history that people discovered their ego, their self, and this is a good thing, first of all.
But really messy and really difficult.
It gets messy because, as we know, but very egoistic people, which are still here in our societies quite often, they don't tolerate anybody else to contradict, and so they try to...
They were no longer controlled by the tribal elders and the traditions of those people.
And to make it short, in these societies, or you were on top or you were on the bottom, and if there was some conflict, one of the two died, basically, and so there was not much chance really to get older. So there were still very few people getting older, and if they are venerated or not,
feared more than venerated.
Feared, because if they maintained the power, they were to be feared.
They were to be recognized.
And if they didn't maintain the power, you can go wherever you survive if you want. We don't care. And then came the next level of development, which
the
is
conventional level, which is or the blue level in
spiral dynamics.
Yes. And here, the chaos and of the red period of the warlord period was replaced by an orderly society where people knew their place, did it well, and were rewarded for doing it well. And so there was some predictability to life. There was a circle of care. The people in that group were respected and cared for. And we saw the very first kinds of hospitals for old people at that time.
And they were also cared for in the family.
In the family.
Very much. So old people were accepted, were there, had their role. They still had probably some work to do, like grandfathers, grandmothers, grandmothers more than grandfathers probably, I don't know. But there was the possibility to grow older with a little bit more safety, a little bit more, support.
Support and dignity.
And
Yeah.
dignity,
Yeah.
dignity.
Yeah.
This is the important
Yeah.
thing. You could have a certain amount of dignity, which then in the next stage of development sort of disappear. This is the modern stage where money and success and achievement is the main value.
Yep. Even though everyone was created equal in orange societies, but some
not really, because when you are not productive anymore and only get money need money to survive from other people, you are not really
you kind of pushed aside. You're out of economic life. You're out of life in many regards.
And this is the situation where we find us mostly in the Western world, where elder people are marginalized, where they are not considered anymore, where they are sort of trash. You know.
And they get warehoused very frequently in these old people's homes, these rest homes. They have various
the horrible
names.
Ones, where you come in and even still alive, and after 4 weeks you are gone because
you have no responsibility for anything. You are just simply a piece of meat that's taken care of.
Yes, and then comes the next level, which fortunately is quite arrived in the Western world, is the green level, and here everybody is taken care for, and older people. I mean, now with the achievements of medicine, there are many more older people than there were before.
Which is huge difference in human society.
Yeah, and green takes care for them. They see that they were marginalized and treated badly in the previous level, which is still ongoing, by the way. But they take care for them. There are now older people institutions which are much better than the previous ones, and they are not pushed aside completely, at least, in a green mindset. While in a society which contains 3 or 4 levels of development, you can find all of that. And what we want to explore is
move past green a little bit, because there are some downsides to green, and that is that green assumes it knows what's best for everybody, and so we are still in our old age then on the receiving end of this good intentions.
And following what other people have intended for us. And green is still so, although it's better. We get a better deal. But we want to create our own lives. As young people want to create their own lives, we want it too.
Because, gosh, from 60 to 100, which is a very possible old age for many of us, that's as long as our whole working life, What are we going to do? Just sit there and wait for people to take care of us? No thanks. No thanks.
And what we are doing here is part of that. We want to reinvent older age and give our energies and our wisdom and our experience out.
Reinvent, sometimes rediscover, but in any event, remix all of these inputs from earlier phases.
Let's go now to the quadrants.
To the quadrants in the upper left, of course, that's the interior of the individual. That's what we think, what we feel, which our interior view of what's going on. It's very individual. It's very private. That only gets shared, more or less as we become more trusting, more open with people around.
But this is also the place of our false beliefs and conditionings. And if we want to change something, we need to open our interiors and talk about it with others so they can see how it was for others, how it is for others, and feel that they are normal in their desires of creating something different.
Very important, because we have absorbed all these old stories, all the old stereotypes, and we find ourselves believing them. We speak as if it were true, these stereotypes. And the outside isn't going to change without the inside changing.
Absolutely. So we need to create our own ideas about what we want to feel, what we want to experience, and then take steps in the exterior world, in the upper right, or in the upper left, in the lower right, to create new institutions, new ways of being cared for or taking part in caring. So we jumped a little bit around.
Yeah. Do you want to start a little bit with the lower left? With the
lower
social?
left, this is we need to create communities.
Mhm.
You know, so many people
Folks
are alone.
like us, you and us, you know.
Yeah, so many people feel that they are abandoned in old age and alone. That is the consequence of the orange.
But I had the retirement community. There was all old people talking to each other.
Yeah, and this is boring too.
Oh,
we
yeah.
need all generations in dialogue
Exactly.
to cross-fertilize, as you
Yeah.
say so nicely.
And many of those people were very isolated anyway in their own little homes.
Also young people are, by
Yeah.
the way,
Mhm.
not only old people.
Yes, isolation is a problem, period,
Yes.
everywhere.
And this is a part we need to create different ways of communities.
That's right.
And everywhere there are attempts, and we are part of it.
Mhm.
The upper right is the body.
You know, there's some fantastic things going on in regards to extending life. You know, that's one aspect. Sometimes I think it's just kicking the can down the road, but the really research into life extension is quite fantastic. But even with modern medicine, it's possible to measure so many body activities, you know, you can get a readout every month of how your body's doing.
That doesn't mean that you feel well.
No.
And we need an integral. We need to make this difference.
That's right.
What the body is doing well or not so well, and the feeling inside and the attitude towards the world and towards our own possibilities and our own potential are completely different things. They are interrelated in some way, but they are not the same.
Yeah.
So if on the right hand side people find out with the encephalogram your activities in your brain, they might give some indications of what is not so much functioning and working, but they cannot tell if you are thinking what you are thinking and what you are needing.
No,
So
no, the brain waves are not the content of your thoughts at all.
Absolutely.
No, not at all. And that's so there's great progress there, and there's limitations. We can't just treat the body as a third person object. And then
and that's what normal medicine
it
does.
does. I'm afraid it does.
And this is what we call orange medicine mainly. And there are many attempts into green medicine, alternative healing, which is good. But when they then think that is only so, and we should leave out the traditional medicine, it's not good either. So we need an integral approach even for the body and for health.
All these approaches have something to offer. Okay. And then on the lower right, the kind of hardest nut of all in some ways, you know, a society that actually accommodates the other quadrants, you know, and so that we have a different kind of health system, that if you go into a hospital, it's not going to be the kind of experience my parents had, grandparents had. You know, it was virtually a death sentence at the end of life. That's when all the money gets spent on you, you know.
And for instance, also that it is respected. If you, in the end of your life, we are talking also about death here, if you don't want to be in intensive care, when you have written it down, here in Italy it's not respected. You are put onto the machines. That's not good. I mean, we need to have a self-decision, the right to decide about our life in the moment we cannot voice it anymore.
A system that fits us rather than us fitting the system.
This is for an example, you know. But the other example, what we need really, we don't need to stay in pension and just stay around for 30 years and be annoyed. Studies show that boredom is one of the reasons why people die, although they are sort of healthy, you know. We need to have
get tired of living.
Not only we elder people, everybody needs a sense of purpose in life. But when we want to enjoy life longer, it's not because of the medicine, it's because we find our life purpose. And I think in older age we have a better chance to do that because we're
not restricted by all the things we had to do before we turn 60, let us say. You know, work, family, house, mortgages, debts, children. Oh,
We don't have so many duties
no.
anymore. And then on the other hand, coming to the right quadrants, when we go out and do something like we are doing here, we also need to have a little bit of a return on it.
Mm-hmm.
It can be return of love, and this is wonderful, but many old people don't have a lot of financial possibilities, and for that are constricted to stay in places where they don't want to stay. So there need to be a possibility to contribute and to be also retributed.
No, retribution is not the word. Remunerated.
For that in a different way, because elder people a little bit body is slowing down normally or whatever. Things change. It definitely change, and we cannot assume that a 5-year-old does the same job as a 20-year-old, as a 50-year-old, or a 90-year-old. You know, the range of what they are doing could be different, not necessarily, but the speed and the way is for sure different, and you cannot measure it financially as the orange meme level measures it in speed and product and outcome. What do you get in quick time?
Yeah.
We have also the possibility, just as we said, to slow down and go into spiritual awakening, let's say, doing spiritual work for the world. You know, energy. We know about the energies. They are, when we are emanating a certain kind of energy, it has an impact.
Definitely.
The fields of the morphogenetic fields of Sheldrake, they really say that. So this, at this time, is not seen at all as a real contribution. The people who only meditate, maybe she shouldn't do it all day, but meditate a whole lot of time to expand this positive energy, they are often seen as they are not useless for society. They are not.
No.
So we need to rewrite the story about what is of value and more value or less value. Everything has value, but more value or less value for a certain
That's right.
idea or purpose.
Right. And if you have reached, something like our age, you have a whole life behind you. You have all kinds of experiences. You have all kinds of wisdom. The wisdom isn't assured just because you're old, but certainly a life experience that has something to offer. And we are more differentiated now in our old age than we ever were in our growing up years.
Hopefully, when we have grown up, and this is another thing, we still can grow up in older age, getting more mature, and also doing things. For instance, I'm a singer, and I teach older people to discover their voice. The body and the mind is flexible until old age when we train it. If we don't train it, difficult. But when you begin to train it, slowly, one step after the other, you can reach incredible things still. So this is part of our mission, and I think with that we invite everybody to join us on the Wisdom Factory.de and later on integralaging.com and join us in the conference in Budapest.
All right. So
and on the Facebook group.
We're supposed to end all of these videos with a call to action.
Okay, do it.
Well, what do we want to do? What would we like you to do? We'd like you to join with us.
Oh, I said that just now.
Oh, we already had the call to action then. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well.
Okay, that's it for today. It's another rehearsal, and we will do probably another one.
Okay. All right. Thanks for watching. Really.